All right. Excuse me. I'm losing my voice. I'll call the meeting to order. I will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. Okay, have our student representative lead us.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Kristen Cambenzi.
Here.
Glenn Sarka.
Here.
James Hewitt.
Here.
Jennifer Cliff.
Here.
Jennifer Ray.
Here.
Cheryl Maddox Smith.
Here.
Jason Zadunik.
Here.
All right. Next is approve the agenda.
I would make a motion to approve the agenda.
Support.
All right, we have a motion from Mr. Sarka and support from Mr. Hewitt. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next on the agenda is comments from the public, agenda items only. No slips? Okay. All right, moving on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mrs. Cambenzi. I wanted to start by recognizing School Board Appreciation Month. Marquette Area Public Schools is joining 537 local and 56 intermediate school districts across Michigan to celebrate January as School Board Recognition Month. In another year full of challenges for public education, our school board members persevered through the adversity of 2022 to provide the best possible education for our students. Celebrating School Board Recognition Month is one of the very small ways to express appreciation for all they do. The individuals serving MAPS and their years of service are Kristen Cambenzi, President, serving since 2015, Glenn Sarka, Vice President, serving since 2019, James Hewitt, Secretary-Treasurer, serving since 2015, Jennifer Clipp, Trustee, serving since 2021, Jennifer Ray, Trustee, serving since 2021, Cheryl Maddox Smith, Trustee, serving since 2023, and Jason Zadunik, Trustee, serving since 2023. MAPS would also like to thank James Randall for serving from 2017 to 2022, and Dr. Brian Cherry for serving 2011 to 2014 and 2017 through 2022. School board members represent the views and priorities of their community in the complex system of maintaining and running a district's public schools. They also reinforce the principle of local control over public education, which is an important, highly valued aspect of education in Michigan. Too often, the efforts of school board members go unrecognized. No matter what challenges lie ahead for our district in 2023, our school board members will continue to govern to improve student achievement and provide exceptional education for all our community's children. Thank you all for your service. Okay, next up is a presentation from Mr. Andrew Kunkelton and some of his staff. I'm not sure exactly what he's got prepared, but Andrew, the stage is yours.
Thanks.
I'm loud.
If you want to catch it on the video,
Yes, thanks for being here. Thanks for holding this in our schoolhouse. It's always nice to have the board in the building. And to those of you that joined us at 5 to take a walk around, thank you for coming in and seeing some of what the program offers. To echo off what Superintendent Sedgwick said, happy Board of Education Appreciation Month. And I guess one thing that in your intro and today's intro at professional development, it's amazing how fast time flies by. To hear how long some of you have been serving on the board from, whether it's 2015 or 16, it feels like I remember all of you coming onto the board at various times, and it really does go fast. So thank you for all you do for MAPS, and little bit about the program. I didn't really put together a slideshow or anything like that because I wanted my staff to showcase what we did while walking throughout the halls. But before I go into talking about the program a little bit, I'd like to acknowledge my staff that are here, my faculty that are here, Jessica Heinlein and Nora Toriano, Aaron LaValle, Kim Matulitz, and just thank you all for your hard work. And those that couldn't make it tonight, they're just amazing too. I'm blessed to have such a great faculty. And then beyond that, I have one custodian in the building, Lynn Gorsuch. He's sitting over here. He maintains the building for now 160 students, high school students. It can be a little messy at times, and he does this on his own with an 8-hour shift, Monday through Friday. And you do an amazing job, and you're a class act. So it's great. To acknowledge Lynn in a public forum, and then we do that with everybody that works in our building. Kay Goodrow, our lunch provider, Beth Teggy, and Alyssa Slattery, our school social worker. We're all part of a team. If you were to come here in the morning when we're greeting students and high-fiving them at the door, Lynn, Howard Becker, our GED instructor, the staff, everybody's there, right? We're all equal playing field in this together. So it's not uncommon to come here, and it's not restorative practices, but to see students working alongside with Lynn, keeping our house together. I think that term of schoolhouse is very important, right? This is a home for these kids. I spend more time with my students during the school year than I do my own child, right? When you think about how much you're at work and interacting with them. So we foster a holistic environment where all are welcome, right? And that's an interesting thing. So we've been around for a long time. Most of you know about our program, but the thing I think is most unique is every student that comes to school here has applied to come here, right? So we don't have an 8th grade that feeds our program. So at some point, whether the student or the parent or the guardian, at some point said, you know what, I'm looking for a change. I'm looking for something that's a little different for my child, my most important asset on the planet, right? And with that comes a great deal of responsibility. We are very aware, if you read the capstone project in the hallway that we were looking at, some of the adversity that our students overcome, the hardships that all students at MSHS, Negaunee, Ishpeming, wherever are facing, it's very real, and we take that serious to work with those students and help them build the skills and the life sets and the ability to overcome, so when they graduate, they're ready for what's next, right? Something you may not know about the program is we're really an alternative high school for the entire RESA. This isn't just taking students from Marquette Senior High School. We have students from Munising, Big Bay, Negaunee, Ishpeming, Gwen. And again, what that tells me and tells us is that we as MAPS have supported the program and fostered the program and continue to build a program that gives students, not just in Marquette, but our area, a place to thrive that is completely supportive for their needs, right? When you're young, when you're 14, 15, 16, and life throws you something and you derail, whether that's socially, economically, poor decisions, it's good to have a place for a second chance and a place to rebuild. These are kids, and they're amazing kids, and you can see that from their work. And my teachers really get the best out of them. We've been looking a lot at graduation rates as of late, and our graduation rates are really low. You all know this. A big part of that is for the 20 years we've been around, we've predominantly taken juniors and seniors, right, that are in credit crisis, at risk of dropping out. In the last 8 or 9, 10 years, we've started taking freshmen and sophomores, juniors and seniors. We've become a 9-12 program. Since then, our graduation rates continue to trend up. And what that tells me is the work, if we can intervene with the staff, just like we do down the road at Marquette Senior High School, we're all the same team, we have an unbelievable success rate in kids that maybe weren't feeling seen or valued where they came to us from. And I don't know if any of you want to jump in or add anything. I'm just kind of bumbling along. Doing good, Jesse. I think you said you might have something to add. Thank you, buddy. Go ahead, you can jump in with the other topic. It's okay. I think it's a good topic.
I just want to say three things real quick, three big thank yous. One, thank you all for serving on this, this is a huge role, really. I don't think anybody understands how much credit you guys deserve for serving the public in this way. Two, thanks for coming to our building tonight. Thanks for checking out what the kids do, kind of getting a feel for what we got. And selfishly, last but not least, thanks for the little Christmas bonus before Christmas. That sure was handy. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
Well said, Jesse. He said, can I say that? And I said, I think you can. That's okay. It's not okay, he did. Some big events that I'm going to wrap up, if you're interested in coming in and seeing some things that we're doing going towards the end of the school year. Our teacher who's here tonight, Brian Pearl, has just made a connection with a school called the Honduras Zamaruno, probably butchered that name, University and High School in Honduras. They're working through Flip Learning and collaboration in regards to agribusiness, and so our kids will be working with their kids, teaching each other. So that's a pretty cool thing. Spring, believe it or not, will be on the way. We'll do our annual Sugar Shack and tap a wealth of maple trees, and then with that we do a lot of incorporated learning, Anishinaabe language, folklore, conversion, economics, everything we try to do big picture wise, we try to incorporate into all subjects, right? So why are we doing that? How is it applicable? And I think that brings to light maybe a student that hasn't been successful always in the traditional classroom, having something go continuous through the day rather than 45-minute chunks that maybe aren't always related, kind of opens eyes sometimes. So with that, I could go on and on for hours, and you guys are probably like, please don't. So any questions for my faculty, myself, in regards to the program? It's always a good answer.
Is that collaborative that you all do together, or do it separate file? How does that work?
Actually, it started with Ken Moore and I.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crunkleton. Next up, we have the budget amendment presentation by Mr. Lampman.
Thank you, Mr. Sedgwick. I don't believe I'm hooked up to the screen. You are. It might be a word. Yeah, thank you. There we go. Well, first, Mr. Crunkleton, thank you for hosting this evening. We certainly appreciate it, and it's always nice to get out into the buildings. So I'd like to just start out with just a little explanation of why we're here in January doing a budget presentation rather than December. I know we have a couple of new board members, so they may not be aware of what the process is, but normally we would have a budget amendment in December, a budget amendment in March, and then we'd have a budget amendment in June where we'd also adopt the budget for the next fiscal year. Unfortunately, this year we had a couple of issues pop up. One issue that we had was normally we try to have our staffing plan in place by the December amendment. We have various grants that we charge staff to. Unfortunately, we usually know that grant funding is in place by October, November, where we're going to allocate our staff appropriately. This year, the state is coming down with new grants mid-year, and that's made it a bit of a challenge for us to work out our staffing plan and where we're charging staff to grants. We had an update today from Marisa indicating that some of the grants that we'd like to charge to, the state won't have finalized until February, March, that time frame. So that's been, for us, trying to kind of hit a moving target. And I would like to give special thanks to Kathleen Stiles and Janice Flath. Kathleen in the audience and Janice, our people and grant accountant, for the hard work they've been putting in on trying to finalize our staffing plan. But it isn't yet complete. It's nearly complete, I believe, but we're just waiting to finalize a few other things. But in the meantime, we also had some turnover the last couple of months to some significant key positions in the administrative office, and so where we've all been coming together as a team to try to keep the operation moving forward as seamless as possible. And as we train in new staff, our focus has shifted a little bit. So I do apologize. We missed the mark on the December amendment, and the January amendments are a little truncated, but we'll bring to you in the March amendment a complete staffing plan. So I just wanted to throw that out up front, and I'll be brief as there aren't a whole lot of changes for this amendment. So one of the things that we looked at were local revenues. Let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger. So when we set the budget for the 22-23 fiscal year, we've estimated a 1% increase in taxable value for our local tax revenues. Currently, we're actually anticipating $417,000 more in tax revenue than we originally budgeted. That is due to a larger increase in taxable values across the board than we had anticipated with our 1% estimate. As you're probably aware, there have been a lot of home sales happening, and when a home sells, it uncaps, so the taxable value goes up. So it was a busy summer. So local revenues, again, we're looking at a $417,000 increase. State revenues, with our proposal A funding, we're looking at a reduction of about $437,000. Again, that's tied to the increase in our local property taxes. The state giveth with one hand and take back with the other sometimes, and taxes is one of those areas where if we see a large increase to our tax revenue, we see a corresponding decrease to our proposal A funding at the state level. So if our local goes up, our state goes down to keep us even. So no district really benefits from say a hot real estate market, kind of levels the playing field a bit. So looking at our foundation allowance, we had estimated 3,218.66 FTE. Currently, for our state aid reporting, we're at 3,214.07 FTE. So we weren't too far off the mark here. We were only, about 5 FTE lower than what we had budgeted. We estimated $9,100 in our original budget for our per pupil foundation allowance. Our actual allowance came in at $9,150 per pupil, so $50 higher than budgeted. We're looking at an increase in our 22B discretionary funding, which is formula driven, but it essentially comes down to it's an increase in our district's foundation allowance. But it's discretionary, so it gives us the ability to spend it on areas that we need to. Retirement. The UAL retirement rate went from 15.05% last year to 16.65% this year. That's revenue that we get from the state. We record as an expense. It's kind of a wash on the books, but that's when that percentage increases, it's such a large number that it does reflect. And that was incorporated into the original budget. I'd mentioned staffing, so currently we have not yet made an amendment to our staffing plan. Again, we'll bring that to you in March. We've solidified that. And as far as other expenditures go, we had previously brought to the board that we were looking at a $5 per pupil increase in teaching supplies that we had intended to bring to the December amendment. We're incorporating that into this one. So teachers will see an increase in their supply budgets, which, again, we discussed a little earlier in the year. And then there were just some other adjustments with transfers between line items that we're just cleaning up. One other issue that I'd like to mention is we had set aside $1.3 million for MTSS implementation this year, in which we had anticipated spending approximately half that on the instructional coaches that we implemented this year. Due to our changes in staffing plan, that kind of went out the window, and we're now planning on charging our instructional coaches to our ESSER 3 grant. So we are looking at putting that money back into reserve for MTSS. So we do have other expenditures for MTSS we're looking at, but it may be able. One of the long-term visions for this money is maybe keeping the instructional coaches on a little bit longer than we anticipated, now that we have some grant funding to use for those.
Remind us what ESSER 3 is?
I'm sorry?
Remind us what ESSER 3 is.
Oh, I'm sorry. ESSER 3 is a federal grant that we received as part of the COVID funding. And basically, it's funding that came down the line to be used for addressing various needs of COVID, such as teacher and student mental health, addressing learning loss, covering COVID-related costs, things of that nature. So we felt that the instructional coaches, met that criteria, and we had some availability as we worked our staffing plan, that it just kind of made sense to move the instructional coaches into that particular grant funding.
So originally MTSS, and their instructional coaches were coming out of ESSER 2, and you funded them to ESSER 3. I missed that part. They were coming out of what?
They were going to come out of the general fund. We had set money aside in the general fund specifically for MTSS implementation.
Okay. And then you said $1.3 million.
Correct.
Okay.
And we plan to spend about half of that this year on funding the instructional coaches, and carry over about $600,000 into next year to continue with the instructional coaches or other MTSS needs. And now we're putting that back into the $1.3 million reserve, and we're pulling it from the ESSER 3 grant. Yeah.
You're expecting the ESSER funding to continue for, how do we?
No, this particular ESSER 3 grant, we have to have spent by September 30th. So we're trying to exhaust that funding source. We certainly don't want to leave any money on the table, and so our goal is to have that exhausted. We do have other grants coming down the line. Some have deadlines this year, some have deadlines next year. As I mentioned, the state we've applied for some grant funding that earlier this year that the state has not yet solidified a plan on. I've heard discussions that, because they awarded it early in the year, but they still haven't released the funds, but some of these grants had deadlines of June 30th to be spent. I've heard discussion that maybe the state will extend the deadline on some of these grants because the money won't be released till later in the fiscal year, but they might be available next year. So again, we're kind of in this limbo on, okay, do we have to exhaust it this year? Are they going to let us carry it over next year? Again, in a normal year, we'd be able to have that staffing plan really pinned down, I think, in the first half of the fiscal year. So, as far as the adoption format, again, we're looking at an overall increase to our revenues of $318,000 at this point in time. An increase to expenses of about $31,000 at this point. So an overall increase of about $288,000 to the general fund. And again, we're reserving that full $1.3 million again for MTSS, where we had it at $600,000. So, any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lampman. I just have one other item under other, and that is our new HR director, Miss Regina Rollstone, who's over here in the orange. Miss Rollstone comes to us from JKL, the Wadding Charter School over, Anishinaabe School, thank you. And you live in St. Ignace? And she's now living about 200 yards away from her office. So, Miss Rollstone's been a great addition. She's got a very, very warm personality that makes it easy to get to know her, and we welcome her aboard and are very appreciative for your willingness to serve. Did you want to share anything, or? Thank you, Ms. Rollstone.
And that is all that I have.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Hewitt and supported by Mr. Sarkar. Any comments? No? All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Moving on to board committee reports. I'll start with Mr. Hewitt and Appropriations Committee.
Thank you. We met last week, Tuesday, January 17th at 11:30 a.m. Myself and Mr. Zadunik. The agenda was mainly covering what Mr. Lampman already went over, which was our budget amendments. We did also have another discussion regarding Marisa and our special ed funding. So just a few things to note from that discussion. Mr. Sedgwick has been working with Marisa as they are kind of going through some discussions on a potential change in their special ed funding. And currently, it's basically made up by a certain formula based on FTE. And we, as a very large district, don't actually get a very large percentage of that pie comparatively, especially when you look at some of the smaller districts within Marisa. And so if a couple of these options that are in the discussion move forward, it could actually stand to help MAPS quite a bit with our special ed funding. It would actually, one of the options that they're looking at is looking at actual expenditures by each district as opposed to an FTE formula. And if they were to go, we looked at a couple of different ones that have, potential numbers plugging in the variables, but currently, right now, we spend annually about $9 million a year on special education, and we only get reimbursed about $7 million of that. So we're always at a shortfall each fiscal year. And if one of these 2-3 options gets approved, then we might be able to make at least that part whole. And so that's pretty exciting and would be, very beneficial to everybody within MAPS for sure. So just wanted to highlight that. Also, just another thing to point out, which I think was a strong positive from our relationship with Marisa. We always have to contract with a fiscal auditor every year, and we've been with the Raymond Group for the past at least 2, maybe 3 years now. Prior to that was Plant Moran. Prior to that, we used to go with Anderson Tackman. Anyway, we've always asked Marisa for other opportunities to have full Marisa-wide collaboration, and it just so happened a lot of the other districts were looking at contracting out with some auditing firms, and Marisa jumped in and is going to do a full Marisa-wide contract for everybody, and should see some cost savings there. So just wanted to again point out another positive thing that is happening for us in the future. So other than that, I don't think we really discussed anything else. So if anybody has any questions, I can address those as they come. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Hewitt. Student School Board Representative report, please.
So we just are wrapping up our first semester exams of this school year, and then we start our second semester Wednesday. And that's pretty much it that's going on at the high school. There's no other report for this month, so yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, moving on to new business. Consider the adoption of amendment to the 2022-2023 budget.
I'll make a motion to adopt the budget amendment.
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Hewitt and support by Ms. Ray. Any comments? No? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Comments from the public general? Don't think we have any slips. Moving on to gifts and requests. Donation to the Shiras Planetarium from the Shiras Institute, an amount of $25,000. Thank you very much for that. We're going to move on to board member comments. We'll start with Ms. Maddox Smith.
Hi, I just want to thank everyone for being here, and Mr. Crunkleton, that was an awesome tour that you gave. I loved seeing what's going on here, all the great stuff you guys are doing. I knew that you had a big population, but I didn't realize the amount of students, the amount of area that you're covering. So great job, you guys. Thank you for explaining the budget so well to us. That was awesome. I had some questions and they were answered, so that was great. And welcome, Ms. Rollstone. Awesome to see you. And our student rep, thank you for being here. And that's about it. Good work, everyone.
Thank you. Mr. I'm going to butcher this name for a little bit here. Is it Zadutnik?
That's a good enough. That's good enough. No worries. Just briefly, in addition to what was just mentioned, I did want to thank the many individuals that put their time and energy into produce a successful 2023 UP Championship Wrestling Tournament this weekend held in Marquette. As a past participant of this tournament, I can attest to the importance to the sport that this tournament presents. There are too many individuals to name. However, those that made this happen, you know who you are. And for me, thank you to those that made that tournament a success. That's all I have.
Mrs. Clip.
Thank you very, very, very much to the Shiras Institute for their donation of $25,000 to the Shiras Planetarium. It really does set our district apart, and I'm really excited for the direction and sort of the rejuvenation we have in meeting some of the goals for that facility. I'm gonna get your name wrong. Can you repeat your last name for me again? Regina. Well, we're glad you're here. I've heard wonderful things about you, so that's great news. And then just the staff here at the Alt. I've said this before, and I've said it to pretty much anyone that will listen, but you guys have dialed in culture, and this, my belief personally, is this is not something this is not a formula that just is should be exclusive to an all-ed building. This is connecting to kids and reaching kids where they are, whether it's a more traditional school setting or not. My daughter did say to me, I don't even know where she heard this, but she's in 8th grade, and she did say, Mom, I think I'm going to go to the Alt next year. I'm like, well, we should probably talk about that, but clearly the reputation precedes you. You have a lot of good stuff going on, and I hope what you have determined, what you've been able to, the formula you guys have been able to package, I would like to see it spread throughout our district because you guys have it dialed in, both formally and informally. You guys are a real gift. So, thank you. Thanks so much.
Ms. Ray.
Just kind of reiterating that same thing, I have a brother who did what they called senior seminar, and it was more hands-on experience, and it's what kind of got him through. I mean, it was touch and go there for sure, and it was a real gift to see different ways of learning. I believe in that tremendously, and also just the impact it has when you look at the whole child, which is what kind of focusing on, and it'll be lovely to see that kind of spread, and I think you all have it dialed in. And it's a gift to have alternatives for students. not everyone learns the traditional path, and we need to have more options for success for all kids. And really, I'm excited that you all are building a new team, and welcome. I think it's going to be a good year for that. A little more support over there, and a lot of learning, and one of my goals is to visit the schools, so I'll touch base with you on that. But I really enjoy to kind of sort of see things in action with all the kids here. So appreciate everything you do. Thanks.
Mr. Hamel?
Can't say it better, I'll just make it short and sweet. Thank you and welcome, and have a good night.
Mr. Sarko?
Thank you, welcome, and have a good night. I'm going to start with that. No, it's just, a lot of times, meetings are reminders of the things we take for granted in our school district. When we end a meeting about a donation for $25,000, that's amazing, but just for a second, realize that when you talk to people in other districts and talk about our planetarium as if every high school has a planetarium. You talk about Kaufman Auditorium as if every school district has a Kaufman Auditorium, and we're very, very fortunate that we have the families that we do that contribute to that every year, and a community that supports that. We're just very fortunate to have that. I think we're also fortunate we take for granted cars running and being reliable. And a few years back, we had a car that broke down. And from the legends I've heard, that's why we're fortunate enough to have the principal we have and the leader we have in this building. We should get him a car maintenance kit so that he's never stuck in another town and finds that maybe he wants to do something unique and wonderful like he's done here. And to have the great staff you have is great, and to put the team together and keep it together. Like you said, we used to kind of accept a model that we would take kids that were behind in their junior and senior years and scramble to do what we can, and to say maybe we should get those kids in here when they're freshmen and sophomore and change their life is a big transformation, and it's something that, again, we kind of took for granted that old model, and we shouldn't take for granted that model. Welcome aboard. It's good to have you here. I'm glad you're close to your second home, so you can walk. Another thing we take for granted is Linda Hopper. She gets us going. She keeps us together. She types like she's not listening to me right now. And that she's blushing, but we take her for granted, and we wouldn't be able to function without her. So I want to make sure we thank Linda for everything she does. Thank you.
Thank you. Board President comments. I'd just like to echo what everyone else said. This is always one of my favorite things, is to come to the buildings and kind of get to see what's going on. I have one kid that's at Bothwell, and, it's great to see what happens in the other buildings and stuff. And so I really appreciate you guys taking the time out of, your already busy days to stay a little bit later and show us around, and, we really appreciate it. And we appreciate what you do here. So thank you. Thank you for that. Definitely welcome. I'm excited for the new year. And, I've got our first full meeting under our belts. And I remember most of what I was supposed to say. So I'm doing good. We're all doing good. So, no, it's just great. We have a good group here with everyone, our staff, our teachers, our kids, our board members, our superintendent. Thank you guys so much for everything that you do for me and showing up. So, announcements and other meetings. February 14th, Valentine's Day, half day for students. February 20th, 2023, regular board meeting at the Bothwell Library. Motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
All right, we got motion and support. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Mr. Sarka. All right. Motion to adjourn.